Surya Old Boys, Encik Rashidan Abdul Rashid, and Encik Abdul Razak Abdul Aziz.
Okay. Tak, dia tengah cakap.
Can the organizer show the slide?
Ibu kan?
Dr. Amal, can you share the slides that I shared with you?
Technical team.
Do we have slides?
Dia tengah share.
Okay. Meanwhile, our technical team is sharing the PowerPoint slide. Those who doesn't have get your breakfast, please take your drinks for a while. Okay, hold on with us. Your tea or coffee is something to bright your day. Okay.
Okay. While waiting for the slides to come on the screen, let me just perhaps elaborate a little bit about Halal and Toyyib. As Halal and Toyyiban. So there are two words, but they are closely related to one another. The word Toyyib is very comprehensive word and has a great place in the Quran and the Sunnah. The Muslim Holy Scripture, which was revealed to mankind from God, capital G, and the Sunnah is the prophetic traditions, basically what the Prophet, peace be upon him, did, say, and approve. Okay, so the word Toyyib is often used in the Quran with the word halal. Either in one phrase, halal and Toyyiban, or something which is permitted and then the word Toyyib or the derivatives of Toyyib. Okay, the word halal comes from the root ha, lam, lam, and from the dictionary of English to Arabic and Arabic to English that I have, there are at least 10 meanings of the word halal. Okay, if you go to the third slide, Dr. Amal. Okay, the word appears in the Quran as 8 derivatives. Okay, you can see the word ahalla 20 times, tahilla 1 time, and then the rest. The one that is of concern to us is the one that appears 6 times. All right, the word here, the word halal appears 6 times, and then there are some other words. Opposite to halal is haram, which is forbidden. Okay, next slide. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, this particular slide is for the word Toyyib. Okay, not this slide, the table, please. Okay, so this, I think there is some, okay, this slide. This particular slide describes basically the word Toyyib. The root word is Toyyaba, which means goodness, flavor, delicious, and delicate taste. The word Toyyib itself has the following meaning: good, pleasant, agreeable, delicious, etc. And also pure, clean, wholesome, and excellent. In the Quran, the root word Toyyaba appears in 4 different derivatives. The first one appears 3 times, Tawba, and then the word Toyyib appears 16 times with some re-derivatives, and then the word Tayyiba, from where the word Toyyib comes, appears 30 times, and last but not least, there is another derivative known as Tuba, appears 1 time. Okay, I do not have the time to go through all of this before combining the 2 words, Halal and Toyyib, but I will share with you some of these slides. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so this particular slide, I think there is some technical issues with regard to the slide. Okay, this particular slide is describing what happened to Bani Israel, the children of Israel, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved them from Pharaoh and his forces in Egypt. So they moved toward the promised land, and around Mount Sinai, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them manna and quails. And then the next verse is very interesting. It says, Kulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum wa la tatghaw fihi fayahilla alaykum ghadabi. Saying, eat of the good things, tayyibat, we have provided for your sustenance, and do not transgress therein, lest my wrath should justly descend on you. So this is an example of the word Toyyibat that appeared even at the time of Musa alayhi salam. Okay, in the next slide, can you go to the next slide, please? In this particular slide, you can see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to relate Prophet Musa alayhi salam, and also the son of Maryam. Okay, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhar rusul, kulu minat tayyibati wa'malu salihah. Okay, so in this particular verse that I'm highlighting in blue and green in the slide, you know that according to Islamic teachings, one of the people who have been tested greatly are prophets and messengers of God. And in this particular case, before they are advised to do righteous good or righteousness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O messengers, eat and enjoy all things good and pure. So this is in preparation for their great role as messengers to their nations. Okay, can you go to the next slide, please? In this particular slide, it is quite simple. Can you go to the next slide, please?
I think Prof. Hamza is watching the YouTube. Cannot. He should follow the team only.
Next slide. Okay, since there's a technical issues, this particular verse, which you should see in the next slide, basically indicates that those who follow the messenger, in this case the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who enjoins upon people what is right and forbids what is wrong, and makes lawful for them the good things, tayyibat, and prohibits for them al-khaba'is, impure things, or this one translated as amal. So at the end of the verse, it says they will be successful. What we can gather from here is that if you follow the messenger and then live with tayyibat and follow the messenger and its teachings, and you live in tayyibat, then you will be successful. Okay. Okay, go to the next slide.
I think it's stuck from. Okay, all right.
I do not know. It's quite slow from the organizer's end. Okay, so this particular slide basically trying to tell us that tayyibat and khaba'ith, they are not equal. Not equal are the impure things, or translated here as evil, and the good. The word tayyibat or tayyibu here. Although the abundance of khaba'ith, impure things, might impress you, you just close your eyes for the time being and reflect on the current or the present world. There are so many khaba'ith in the world. Some may, as indicated in this particular verse, may impress you, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, fear Allah, wattaqullah, fattaqullah, ya ulil albab. For those who have sound intellect. We are, I think, with sound intellect, we should reflect on this. Okay, I have 3 more slides before I make my conclusion on halal and tayyibat. Next. In this particular slide, go to the next slide, please. When someone asks the Prophet, okay, what has been made lawful for them, the Prophet replied, lawful for you are all good foods, at-tayyibat, and game, that is animals that have been hunted, what you have trained of hunting animals, which you have trained as Allah has taught you. So halal things are all the good foods. In the next verse, in Surah Ma'idah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this day, all good foods, tayyibat, have been made lawful. Okay? And this is in relation to our relation with the people of the book. Our food is lawful for them to eat, and their food lawful for us to eat. Okay, the next slide. I'm almost coming to the end of the first round. In this particular slide, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, do not prohibit the good things which Allah has made lawful. Okay, do not prohibit things, good things, tayyibat, which Allah has made lawful. And then the subsequent verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكُلُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا, the one that we are trying to discuss today, and eat of what Allah has provided for you, which is lawful and good. Halalan tayyiban. Okay, go to the next slide. In this particular verse, can you go to the next slide, please? When there is a situation where the army, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, when the army obtain the war booties, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, enjoy what you took in war, lawful and good. فَكُلُوا مِمَّا غَنِمْتُمْ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, but fear Allah. All right. One more ayah from the Quran, the next verse, the next slide. Okay, this is the next slide, please. Okay, this is the last slide depicting a verse from the Quran, basically describing again where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated, so eat of the sustenance which Allah has provided for you, lawful and good, halal and tayyiban, and be grateful for the favors of Allah. All right. So from this simple explanation from the Dictionary of Arabic to English, as well as from the selected verses of the Quran. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, what we can conclude is that halal and tayyiban at present is the underlying principle of a Muslim diet. Okay, so if you look on the left-hand side, the halal part, okay, it is lawful according to Sharia, and the right-hand side, that products must be good for consumption because it is healthy, nutritious, quality, clean and safe, and they are done in an ethical manner. All right. So we humbly propose in the next slide. Okay. Because the question is there a distinction between halal and tayyib and halal and tayyiban? Okay. So this particular slide summarizes some of what we think is happening in processed food and beverages. Okay, this particular slide, for example, we said number one, for halal and tayyib, it must have a balanced diet. Secondly, you should have a proper nutritional intake per day or per week. The slide is not coming, but I just continue. There should be focusing on addressing food toxicity and food safety. It must be prepared with great hygiene. There must be healthier choices. I'm glad that some products in Malaysia nowadays, they have this line of product, healthier choices. Less sugar or no added sugar or artificial sweetener. Less salt, no MSG, use natural ingredients, which is relevant to the urban farming, what we are going to discuss today. No waste or not done excessively. Use good resources or sources. Prepare in good quality, ethical, organic, transparency in labeling, and then care for the environment, etc. But last but not least, the last box on the bottom right, okay, this halal and tayyiban is not only for your physical needs, it goes beyond the physical requirements of the body. Okay, so we feel that with halal and tayyiban, from the Quranic verses that I shared in the previous slide, what we eat affects our attitude and behavior. Okay, so it has a spiritual impact for those who live with halal and tayyiban. Okay, in the next slide, if you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, choosing the right food that is tayyib and avoiding the impure khaba'ith is essential to good health, as our bodies and our family bodies are our amana and a trust upon us. One of the things that is less known to many of us, including myself, when I found this article written by Professor Hashim Kamari. So he said, tayyib has its role to link between the physical and the spiritual dimensions of halal. In other words, that of the body and the ruh, the soul. So it has effect. Our good health of the body will have some influence on the soul. Okay, so only a healthy body can provide consistency to safeguard the soul for the salvation of this particular deen. So the many things that are mentioned in the Quran, some of this I mentioned in the previous slides, imply that halal things and foods are appealing to the senses and should be enjoyed and celebrated. Okay, and it is also crucial to understand that we should take care of our body, both an element of observing ethics and an element of pleasuring the body. We should not suffer our body. Okay, my last slide is in the next slide, is my last slide for this round. I'm sorry to take quite long to explain what Professor Azura asked, but in my next round, I will be very brief, inshallah. So, halal and tayyiban lifestyle, what does that imply? If you look at the right-hand side, our type of work and the earnings must be halal and must be ethically done. Okay? Once we have some resources to purchase goods, so those are the type of products which we said must fulfill the halal and tayyiban aspect as we have discussed just now. Food and beverages for life sustenance, and then to feel good about oneself, some, for example, personal care products, okay, supplements, pharmaceutical, medical device, and many other. These are type of products that we have the choice to choose if you want to live halal and tayyiban. Okay. At the same time, as the halal industry grows, there are now services, the healthcare system, the education and training, the financial services, the insurance services, tourism and hospitality services, and many other services. All of this must be ethical and Sharia compliant. So from the earnings, which are halal and ethical, and then the products and the services, this is part of what we call halal lifestyle. But at the personal level, the one below on the right-hand side, the relations. Okay, we must be just, we must be kind, and we must know the rights of others on us and our rights on others as well. So how we should take care of our tongue, our ears, our eyes, and many other parts of our organs. So that is the first part. And then how we interact with elders, teachers, minors, scholars, our parents, siblings, our workmates, friends, when we behave as a spouse, as a parent, as a neighbor, and then at the community level, how we interact locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. So all of this must be towards something beneficial and done ethically, and we must be done in a sustainable fashion. So that is, to me, my personal opinion is that this is how we see halal and tayyiban lifestyle, or halal and tayyib lifestyle. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Thank you, Prof. Hamzah. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, we are today have a better understanding on the extension of halal concept. Hopefully, it is going to be our lifestyle, especially in the post-COVID era. Okay, my next question is to Mr. Rashdan, okay, from Persatuan Lestari Alam Malaysia. Mr. Rashdan, we know that Persatuan Lestari Alam is working very close with Local Agenda 21 office at Dewan Bandaraya Kuala Lumpur on promoting urban farming. What is actually urban farming, and how does it differ from another type of farming? Yes, please. Yes, Mr. Rashdan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dan very good morning to all the audience, especially. By the way, on behalf of my association, okay, those who I represent. So it's a big thank you for InSAF organizing this webinar. So at least we can share, something that really very important for our connection, especially. Okay, now back to the question. What is local agenda 21 all about? Okay, so I think the viewer should would love to know that this initiative actually is anchored by all these local authority. We have 151 local authorities in Malaysia. So the main, as everyone know, is Kuala Lumpur, Dewan Bandar Kuala Lumpur. So back in October 2015, so we had this what do you call that? This plan action. Okay, plan action whereby we need this resident association. We need resident associations, and then we have these schools involved. We have these what do you call that? Government agencies and private sector. Okay, private sector to be involved in this initiative. So it happened in Port Dickson. We call up all these entities to be part of this initiative called Kebun Kejiranan Local Agenda 21 Kuala Lumpur. So it started with only numbers of participants, or what we call it, partners. Okay, we call it partners. So we share with all of us, I mean all the team, the action plan. Okay, what need to be done. Okay, who and who. So before we move to the next level. Okay, and then prior to that, in 2016, we had this MOU, the first MOU. We call up our partners from corporate sector, from government agencies like we have Jabatan Pertanian, we have universities, UPM, and then we have numbers of resident association consists of landed properties and also flats directly under DBKL. So we had an MOU. Okay, the MOU was signed within the mayor of Kuala Lumpur, Datuk Bandar, that time was Tan Sri Amin. And then I think about 16 of us, 16 of our partners. So consists of many backgrounds. Okay, so my part that time actually is to handle schools, okay, Batur schools. So we do a lot of activities, engagement, with the private sector, with the alumni perhaps, just to make sure that the kids in Batur school, they know that this initiative is happening. So prior to that, this initiative is mainly for the city dwellers. So it focuses more on the community in Kuala Lumpur. So we try to get everyone into this urban farming so that any unused land belongs to DBKL, especially. Actually, we can do a lot more. As for now, we have many lands belongs to the government, which they offer our communities. Okay, but I will share about the success story later. Okay, but for this time, for the start, what we do actually, we try to identify location. Okay, the lands which belong to DBKL, especially the resident this flats area, so that we want them to start doing a farming. Okay, so we want them to start doing a basic farming. Okay, the idea actually is to empower, okay, the communities, the marginalized community, the underprivileged community, so that they can be involved in proper activities conducted by DBKL. So for a start, what we do a lot of trainings, we do a lot of workshops. Okay, then we call up all these field experts from UPM. Mostly we got support, we got mentoring from UPM, and then numbers of field experts, okay, to conduct the workshop for this community, because they are really zero when we started. Okay, it's very new for everyone. So the numbers keep increasing time by time. Since 2015, now it's 2020, we have numbers of them. But the most what we did was a training first, because we want the idea of beautifying, occupying land belongs to DBKL, we fulfill with activities. So we have numbers of plot, actually under the grid TNB. Okay, now it's really famous. Everyone looking towards that. Then we have the flash area, the schools. Many actually don't realize in Kuala Lumpur alone we have 300 schools. Okay, so we can do many things with the schools, subject whether the schools are. So we tried out with numbers of schools, and it happened. It was a great success lah. It's a really successful initiative. And then we have an NGO. Numbers really interested to help up this initiative, to be part, not help up, to be part of the initiative. Then they conduct their own plot, their own urban farming project. As example, we have this Dignity in Sentul. So they are doing a project. They have a school for refugee school. So they have this rooftop farming, okay, in Sentul. So what they do, they get the children, the refugee children, and then to plant, and then they sell the crop yield to the nearest restaurant. So actually, this is where our main objective is to what I call that, to empower the land, the government land, and then for their own goods. Okay, so they can have their own fund, so that it can be sustainable. All right, and then last but not least, under Elite 1, we have every not say every year, but we do assessment every year. The last time we did was in 2018. Okay, we do this. We did this accreditation awards. So we do awards for those our selected, those who are really who already signed with us the MOU, and then we give what do you call that, startup fund, and also we give them a star rating. So this is where we can attract more communities to come forward. Okay, and then start doing urban farming in KL. But they need to apply whatever rules and regulation, okay, from the DBKL, because we are not just from this town planning department. So we are working close with something like landscape department. We're working close with this housing department and so on. So this, I mean, in general, what is local agenda 21 Kuala Lumpur all about, and then what is the role of my association to make sure that this initiative is accepted by. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rashdan. I hope after this, our community know where to get helps when they deal with urban farming. Huh? Okay, they can climb your office, right? Okay, before I move to the next questions, okay, I would like to remind our audience, you can post your questions in the YouTube comments section anytime during the webinar streaming. Our team will collect and we will answer later. Okay, Mr. Razak from SID Malaysia, right? Mr. Razak, SID Malaysia is a very active promoting urban farming and permaculture activities. And my understanding is that the permaculture activity focus on the environmental and earth sustainability. What is the difference between conventional urban farming and permaculture? Okay, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And thank you very much, Inhat, and of course, professors, for allowing us to share a little bit on what we do in our own context. And we've heard Professor Hamzah outline really details about what it takes from the perspective of Islam, and what are the things that we need to do and can do. And Cik Rashdan has all the experience in promoting urban farming, urban gardens and whatnot in the context of Peninsular Malaysia. We at SIDS actually we look at what else can we do in terms of helping communities to fulfill the requirements of production, which is, yes, halal and toyyib, but in the context of sustainability. Yeah, that's where we love to come from, and our experience are based on the things that we picked up all over the years, from being a designer in those days in school and whatnot. Rashdan and I and Prof goes in VI. We had We had teachers who taught us about agriculture then, and until today we remember those kind of things. But as we go along and build our own so-called careers, we saw the change between the 1960s, 1980s, where agriculture took a slightly different, how shall I say, direction. When I say slightly, meaning that we saw a lot of discrepancies, and we saw a lot of things that were not proper. I mean, in the 80s, we saw Greenpeace, we saw people like Alice Walters, who already started urban gardens for schools. There must be a reason why this kind of movements started. And before the third of millennium, we were already addressing climate change. And there were many things that we didn't know. Being a country that somehow or another followed the momentum of other countries, we tend to, I must use this, we tend to mimic what the Westerners are doing, and we somehow or another don't realize there were many things that we should not have done, you know. And fast forward to today, this is the crux of it all when you talk about COVID and what COVID has shared with us. And there were many things that I'll share my slides now. Just 4 slides for a moment to share, and all this are going towards a direction that I think we need to look at in terms of how we address our things. I have a couple of references that I would like to share with, obviously in the form of books. Let me just enter full screen. Of course, the first one is 40 Hadis by our dear Dr. Professor Datuk Zaini Ujang and Prof. Zulkifli Muhammad Yusof, recently launched a couple of months ago. And in that book, they talk about the things that we need to address from the perspective of Hadis. You know, what our Prophet ﷺ has outlined, and the things that we need to look at and address it back again. One in particular, of course, from our context, we really like this one because it says a lot. It for us, it outlines probably the fundamental aspect of what we need to do and the importance of it. And it says, if we have a seed in the last hour, we need to plant it. There must be a reason why. Our prophet, the prophet, has said this, because it means it's really important. And then I will cite this very quickly. Obviously, there are many things that we can't share in a short time frame, but I like to pick this particular one up from that book that outlines the things that we need to address in terms of being sustainable. And the first line on the top says, if the focus, if you look at comparing ourselves to the Japanese, motai nai, which really means in our own context is halal and toyyib. And that's the thing that we need to address. Communities are already using it all these years. We have it all these years, and we somehow or another have adapted to certain conditioning that distrays us from producing our own food. And to talk about why we need to revert back to this is because our so-called to put it as our responsibility and accountability to Allah Ta'ala and also to mankind. These are the things that we need to address. Prof. Hamza mentioned a few things just now. And what about our responsibilities to the world, to the earth, to the animals, and even to the microbes? These are some of the things that we need to look at. And of course, I will lead to permaculture in a while. And this is just one aspect of what we practice in permaculture. In permaculture, we see land that has been degraded all this time, and degraded land, land that somehow loses its life in terms of the biodiversity and whatnot. So what can we do then? And there are many instances where we can actually unlock the secrets in the soil by regenerative approach. And in this context, all you need to do is literally composting. And if you are able to do your own compost in your own backyard, in your own homes, and in your own community gardens, and even your farms, this is probably the beginning of the things that we need to address. And if you look at the bottom line, healthy soil is the key to feeding the 9 billion people in the world in the future, in 2050. I believe that is really true, because if you look at, even in our context, look at our paddy fields. 20 years is done, gone, and they cannot even produce 1 ton, 2 ton in certain areas. So what are the things that we need to do? And permaculture is one of the probably the answers that we could look at in terms of creating possible solutions. Yeah. So that's probably my answer, Prof. Azura. Over to you back again.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abdul Razak. I am clear now, and I hope our audience is also clear with the answer. Yes, there are many secrets of soils which is still uncovered. Inshallah, we'll work for it. Okay, we go back to our first panel, which is Prof. Hamzah. Prof, how do urban farming and agriculture activity contribute to halal and Toyyib lifestyle? And does halal and Toyyib lifestyle only apply to Muslim? Yes, Prof, please.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Azura, and also a very good and comprehensive explanation by Encik Rashdan and Encik Abdul Razak in the first round. If the organizer can share my slide, the continuation of my slide, slide number 17. Okay. The question is, how do urban farming and agriculture activities contribute to halal and Toyyib lifestyle? First and foremost, I have basically 6 short answers. The first one, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that we will have fresh produce. Okay, fresh produce. So when we have fresh produce, we can use it or consume it in a very short period of time. Therefore, we don't need to use chemical preservatives. So in that sense, it is one way of how we lead a halal and Toyyib lifestyle. Secondly, because it is just next to us, urban farming, if I understand it correctly, we don't need to transport. And because it is available to us within a short period of time, transport is not required, and refrigeration is perhaps also not required. So all in all, this is related to Lestari, sustainability. We reduce energy consumption. That's number 2. So again, this one, because sustainability is related to halal and Toyyib lifestyle, we are supporting halal and Toyyib lifestyle by engaging in urban farming. Number 3, this is an issue normally for processed food and beverages, is with regard to traceability. Now, in terms of urban farming, I think the materials that we use for food production, either for cooking or for whatever processing, is authentic because it can be easily traceable, okay, because it's quite near to us. Whereas processed food and beverages may come from a different country, from a different part of the country, or from a different state, etc. Okay, so in terms of materials, as I said, the authenticity we can verify easily, right, and fast. Number 4, how this urban farming really helps halal and Toyyib lifestyle, from my understanding and my opinion, is that we really make good use of the resources available to us. The manpower, the space, the land, the knowledge, and many others. So we are actually using this, and this again is done in a sustainable fashion. Number 5, halal and Toyyib lifestyle, as I have mentioned in my previous round, is actually a healthy lifestyle, because from fresh produce and the materials, you know the authenticity. And also, I understand if you sweat, right? You will sweat in a productive way, okay? In a sense that you will get your investment, okay, with your energy, and at some time you'll get the fresh produce after a certain duration. So I think all five is supporting the sustainability of halal and Toyyib lifestyle. Okay, the next question is, does halal and Toyyib lifestyle only applies to Muslim? Okay, can you go to the next slide? Okay, this particular slide is another verse from the Quran. Okay, it says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum washkuru lillahi in kuntum iyyahu ta'budun. Verily, this particular verse explains that all you who believe, eat from the good things which we have provided for you. So this particular verse from the Quran addresses who? The believers, those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and also who take the Quran as their book of guidance. But if you go back a few verses from the same chapter Surah Al-Baqarah here, if you go to the next slide, please. If you go to this particular verse 168, the one that I recited just now is 172. So in this particular verse, what is the call? It is not all you who believe, but all mankind, all people, eat from whatever is on earth that is lawful and good. So who are the mankind? Those living in Europe, in Asia, in South America, in North America. In other words, this call for halal and Toyyib lifestyle is not only applicable to Muslim. Okay? Okay? If you read the continuation of that particular ayah, if you read the whole thing, all mankind, eat from whatever is on earth that is lawful and good, and do not follow the footsteps of our enemy, Shaitan, Satan. Indeed, he is to you a clear enemy. What is this enemy doing to us? The following verse basically indicates he only orders you to sue evil and immorality, fahsha, and to say about Allah what you do not know. So I think it is upon us Muslims who have access to the book Quran to explain to our non-Muslim friends that there is a call from God, capital G, to the mankind that you should consider halal and Toyyib lifestyle. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Bro Hamzah. Let us all start doing urban farming because you are going to consume healthy food and doing exercise with style. Okay. And a strong statement to bring back home is halal and Toyyib is for all mankind. It's not for Muslim only. Okay. My next question will be to Mr. Rashdan from Persatuan Lestari Alam Malaysia. Okay, Mr. Rashdan, how do you explain the connection between urban farming and community sustainability, especially in the urban area? Please. Encik Rashdan, we cannot hear your voice. You mute.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to unmute. Okay, sorry. Okay, this is getting interesting. Yeah, so it's getting very interesting. Whereby that now we are dealing with people. Okay, we can have all the what call the facts, we can all the findings and so on. But the challenges that we are facing for now actually is to get the people to do all this farming. Okay, here in Malaysia, it's like something it's not new, but not many take this seriously. You see, when currently what happened to not our country, everywhere in the world about this COVID, this pandemic, so everyone start pressing the panic button. You see, so when we are talking about urban farming, they are the one who actually, I mean, about the urban community, not farming yet, the urban community, they are the most actually affected, okay, from this COVID thingy. Because you see, in KL, we have very limited land, okay, to do the farming and so on. To be compared with the suburban community, the rural community, and so on. So it's really a torrid time for all these city, what do you call that, city folks, okay, during this COVID-19. Okay, that's why we are lucky because, as I said, 5 years ago, we started this urban farming. So numbers of our communities, they are okay, but numbers of them, so they are not okay because we can't move around, because we need people to take up the responsibility doing all the farmings. You see, like in school, as example, yeah, for schools, okay, when the school shut back, everything off, okay. So what we do, we advise the school headmaster or principal to communicate with the contractor, such as security contractor and also the cleaning contractor, so that they will look after the projects. Or else 2 months of close down during the MCO, nothing happens. So that's why this is the challenges or the difficulty facing by these urban farmers in Kuala Lumpur. As I try to differentiate between this urban farming and then the conventional, I mean, or the permaculture, they're having a nice plot elsewhere, probably in what do you call that, the suburban area. But in Kuala Lumpur, we struggle. The main reason because not many really understand the importance of food security. So it's like you are doing an ABC back, okay. So we need to start from zero back. All right, start engaging with everyone in Kuala Lumpur. Okay, you name it, the kindergarten, you name it, schools, government agencies, the facility. I'm talking about the location first, yeah. Okay, so we need to identify any places that's suitable, okay, to have a farming project, or else that we can, or else we can simply bulldoze other people land, especially the private land. So we're gonna having a hard time in the future. So what we do during this COVID, we identify the needs first, okay, the needs, especially the flats residents. We have 64 they call it Perumahan Awam or PPR, Project Perumahan Rakyat. They are the one who most actually struggle because of their backgrounds. I can say that most of them, they are B40s. Okay, so imagine that in the beginning, we also struggle to get them involved in this project. Okay, until we not hire, until we manage to pursue people like Permaculture Association Malaysia, Natural Farming Association, Seeds Malaysia, actually, they are the one who really doing all this CEPA. Okay, I think for the many years, not even before we started our urban farming in Kuala Lumpur, I think Seeds Malaysia have done it before. So they do all this CEPA thing. CEPA, I can share with the audience outside there, it's a communication, educate and public awareness. Okay, I think Seeds Malaysia, Haji Razak will explain more on that. But for these urban farmings, okay, and the community, it's really hard to convince them, all right, to go down every, I can say if not every day, at least twice a week, okay, to look after their project. Okay, so just imagine they are used of having what do you call that, nap, during the weekend, and suddenly you ask them to go down and join the community to do farming. So this is a very, what do you call it, difficult task for us to do. So the solution, what we found out the last 2 years, we start a recycle project. Okay, we have these flats called PPR Pekan Kepong. Okay, out of 64, So these people Pekepong, they practice what we advise them to do first, which is recycle. Okay, why recycle? I think Prof Hamzah did mention earlier about this compost, about our food waste. Yeah, about food waste. We have massive food waste in Kuala Lumpur because we spend a lot on our food management. I mean, our waste management. So not many people realize that actually we can do a lot of good things with our food waste. Okay, we have kitchen waste, we have food waste, especially the schools. They have canteens and so on. So what needs to be done is to train them to do compost. That is the fundamental of doing urban farming, because we are very limited resources compared with the conventional and compared with the permaculture, practice. So in Kuala Lumpur, if they do recycle accordingly, so when they do recycle, so at least one thing, they can segregate their food waste, their kitchen waste, and so on. So we train them to the compost, and whereby they can make money out of it. So when they have funds, sufficient funds, so they can start the projects. Because we don't want the community involved with our urban farming project relying 100% on DBKL or jabatan. This is already defeat the purpose of having this urban farming. That's why when we do this MOU, we get all this private sector involved. We get these government agencies. We get almost everyone involved, the NGO. So from there, we can minimize the cost of setting up the kebun, the farm or the plots. You see, so we want everyone to work together so that the focus of helping this targeted group from this B40 can happen. So for the last 2 years, when this PPR Kepong, they follow our advice. They follow our advice. Until today, they already save almost 7 tons of waste, recyclables item. And now, after 2 years of doing recycle, they're really ready. They are ready to start their urban farming project. So that what I try to conclude here, we need to change the people mindset first before we're gonna start this urban farming project. For us, it's going to be a white elephant project. Okay, so because the community, they don't really understand why they need to do this farming, because they've been instructed to do it, so it's wrong. So what the best thing to do is to start with recycle. So imagine all 64, all communities, even the schools or the NGO, they do their own compost, so they have their own topsoils, and then they can start do their seedlings, okay, and then they can generate income from there, so that they will not depending 100% on subsidy from DBKL or Jabatan Pertanian. Okay, that is where our understanding about this of urban farming in Kuala Lumpur. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rashdan. For audience information, a few schools in Kuala Lumpur has started practicing urban farming under the local Agenda 21, Kuala Lumpur. Any schools or any community that need help, please contact Mr. Rashdan on how to get approval from local authority. Okay, and InSAF can help you to transfer our knowledge on the urban farming technology. All right, we move to the next panelist, and Mr. Razak. Why do you think some of our farmers do not practice sustainable agriculture, and how to solve this issue?
Okay, thank you, Professor Azra, for that question. This question is pretty tricky in the context of balancing things up. If you look at the needs of a nation, the needs of people, production of vast produce are needed. That is given. So we always have debates about with our friends in the authorities, MOA, farmers, and whatnot. How do we look at balancing things up? And you have to understand the fact that when we went into the agricultural revolution, the need to produce volumes and volumes of food is is warranted. So it drives us to conventional, or what I term as conditional methodologies to produce food. And today we look back, these are probably not the best things that we could have done. But again, we cannot just jump into other methods, because we will not have enough food to go with. Yeah? So that's where I think that the difference between sustainable agriculture and conventional agriculture needs to be created, a kind of a balance, the understanding behind how do we do things. And with that, I'll share a few slides that I've got. In the sense of, again, with reference with some books. Okay, I hope you're able to see this. This is probably one of the my best movie in terms of explaining a lot of things that we could have missed along the line. It's a long movie, but it's a beautiful movie that is done to share with you, to share with everyone what we could have done wrong, and in that movie, it not only share the things that we are facing today, but probably what we're going to face in the future. And another book and movie is probably An Inconvenient Truth by the ex-president. Nothing personal for him. I don't agree with some of the things that he's done as a president, but when he talks about the things that we need to look at, are all there. And last but not least, this book, The New Normal. The New Normal by David Wan, among the few books that have outlined many things that we could have looked into. And in this book, it was published in 2010, 10 years ago. And what are we missing? How are we looking at the old paradigms against the new paradigm? Products as profits and outputs. What is the motivation behind it? And against the reason behind people and culture as outputs. The throwaway mentality that we have against the zero waste that we are practicing now. How can we actually look at closing the loop? The next slide is something which is again very debatable, pertaining to your question, Dr. Azura, is probably leading to. I'm probably going to get a lot of slack for this. Decentralized authorities and limiting the access, not from the perspective of confining them, but for them to understand a little bit what are the new ways that we could have done. Relating to probably a question by our friend Usama from Penang, in terms of monocropping and whatnot. Gone are the days that we should do monocrop, because monocropping doesn't help you and me. It doesn't help in terms of the production. 20 years down the line, any land that has been done in a monochromatic manner will go debunked. It's no use to us anymore. So what if we can apply the principles that we were taught in the older days, when we talk about Aborigines, those years producing sustainable food that has multiple produce. So gone are the days where we want to look at monocropping. What if we can empower? Cik Rashdan talks a lot about communities. What if we can empower individuals and communities now to look at how they produce their own food? Because isn't producing our own food, taking our own healthy food, is our own responsibility? And if it is, why can't we do it? Why must we allow someone else to do that? And they have other motivation. For example, their motivation is money. I always worry when someone comes to me and say, Raza, I need to do this, I need to go into farming, but can I make my first million in 2 years, 3 years? I cringe every time that question crops up. Yes, agriculture is a business, but can we look at other ways of producing the things that we need? Things that can be nature compatible. Can we coexist with the animals and so on and so forth? So these are the things that we feel that we need to, and I think the time is right for the communities as a whole, especially in Malaysia and other countries in Southeast Asia, to look at how else can we produce our own food, which is healthy, right? We call it real food, that we need. And these real food are the ones that have been talked about in many by many experts, health experts, that can actually take care of our own health, and no longer we should subscribe to force down the throat food kind of things that doesn't help us in our own individual health. So how do we now look at ways and means that they have been doing food against how to solve this issue? I think it's simple. We need to readdress the fundamental aspects of why we are producing our own food. Professor Hamza outlines it a lot in detail, but I think we need to look at how we address our own food to take care of our own health. That would probably be my answer on how to address this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Razak. I agree with you. It is all about a lifestyle actually. Monopoly in farming only benefit certain people, not the whole community per se. Okay, my last question to Prof. Hamza. Okay, this is beside the questions that posed by the audience. Okay, what is the impact of urban farming on the halal and Toyyib lifestyle, especially during this post-COVID-19 time?
Okay, thank you, Prof. Azura. I have one slide for to answer. Okay, this, my opinion, is based on the old paradigm, not the new paradigm that Encik Abdul Razak mentioned. So pardon me for that particular oversight of the new paradigm. So what I can see, the effect of urban farming on the future, on halal lifestyle after the COVID-19 or post-COVID-19. Of course, we are still under COVID-19 pandemic, although we are in the remedial or recovery movement control order. We are still under this particular order, but thinking a few months or perhaps a few years ahead, everyone will be, I think, those living in the city, except for those who really love farming for the sake of farming, not because of trying to get extra money or something, they will, I think, remain active. So for others, I think they will be slowly slowing down their activity, because in terms of urban farming, because they will be engaging themselves with some other activities, because we are living in a world where, although we perhaps don't agree, it is money talks, and money is almost the ultimate, as what Encik Razak mentioned. Some people just look for what is my return of investment. Either the return of investment is the energy or time spent or money invested. So I think because of this, my belief is that urban farming post-COVID-19, for those who are still financially constrained, they will be actively involved and continue, in fact, will increase their intensity. This is my opinion. The second, as I mentioned, for those who are financially stable, they will be engaging some other activities after the COVID-19 pandemic is over. So let me just recap. This urban farming and sustainability, I think, is a very good alternative for some of the products that we can replace. Instead of getting it from the grocery store, we can actually produce it ourselves by involvement in urban farming. Okay, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Right, thank you, Prof. Hamza. My last question for Mr. Rashdan. Some of the urban farming projects were left abandoned by a particular community group. In your opinion, does urban farming has a future in Malaysia, especially in Kuala Lumpur? And do we and a group like InSAF must keep on giving awareness and training to ensure the correct urban farming practice is shared with communities? Yes, please. Encik Rashdan, you mute yourself again.
Oh, okay.
You
Sorry,
mute
sorry. It's
yourself.
definitely yes. Okay. All right. Sorry, my bad. My bad. Okay. So it's a yes. It's a big yes. You see, because a lot of people affected. Okay. Losing jobs. Okay. Who actually having small families to feed, and then they have nothing to do because of not. I can say that everyone affected. Okay. The businesses, everything if effect. So that we need to move on from there. Okay, so we need to move on from there. So as you did mention about some of our projects are failed. Why? Because they don't understand. Okay, that's why this is a process whereby we need to do it sooner or later. That's why we are here, as I said today, because we want them to know that it's not about the agriculture. It's more on culture first. Okay, so that's why we need to do this cepating aggressively. So everyone must be involved. Okay, big hand to InSAF because taking what they call this what they call responsibility, and I believe everyone after this, okay, any universities, college, education, institution, they must make the contributions toward this food security agenda. Because when we're talking about urban farming and also this Halal and Toyyiban, so everyone should involved. Okay, no one left behind. So that when we focusing how to help this targeted group, so we need to work together in line with the Sustainable Development Goals 2030 by United Nations. So we make use of this initiative. I can say that this goals number 11 and 17 is the most important. It's a vital for everyone to get this ball rolling. You see, because for now we have about 20 plus farms, okay, projects under urban farming Kuala Lumpur. And after this COVID, okay, because after people realize the importance of food security, now the government having this penjana, Plan Jana Ekonomi Semula. Okay, I think a lot of people aware on that, about that. So after this, after they just launched this penjana, once I think it's taken in Perumahan Awam Sri Perlis in Keramat, this division of urban farming having hard time handling all applications, thousand of it. If I'm not mistaken, we had a meeting with the Director General recently, even Haji Razak was there as well. Okay, then we had another meeting with the Deputy Secretary General of Housing and Local Authorities Ministry. So this will take up seriously, this urban farming thing. It's not just KL actually. We are talking about urban farming in Ipoh, in JB, elsewhere in the country. So KL are lucky because our mayor really into these farming activities. Okay, so that everyone can hook up together. So to actually to materialize this partnership for the goals of 17. So we have 17 goals. So we are starting backward, So we need to get as many partners, everyone who have the the interest in doing this initiative. So or else we are heading there's no direction for this urban farming. There's no future, as I say. So after this COVID-19, there's a lot of demand, every day. For your info, every weekend, my time's full with all these stocks about setting up this urban farming. Okay. I travel everywhere. This weekend, I'm off to Seremban and also Rembau. So they invited me to share how they can start the project. So that's why the 4 element is very important in order for us to make sure that the project is really put on or achieve the location part, the the empowerment part, the training, and then the social enterprise. So the social enterprise part actually is the most crucial, because we want to make sure that it's sustained, so they can what you call that, can they can duplicate many success stories from the other farms. Okay, like example, we have Taman Tun Dr. Ismail, we have TDI Edible Garden. At this time, they just not producing the foods for the community. They do trainings and then they charge for it. So this is where we are heading to. Okay? So with the involvement of many people, especially the universities, like this InSAF, what they call that, initiative, so we can go further. All right, there's many things, many farms or many we can develop together. So starting from the grassroots side, because I believe when we're talking about this COVID-19, okay, I saw the questions. A lot of people really require to know what they need to do this post-COVID thing. I mean, my humble opinion and suggestion is start getting to know how to do to produce your seeds to table project. You can start small, you can what do you call that, you can ask around. We have many successful projects kebun. You can come and visit them, okay, and then you can start your project with your community, okay. So that the advantage of our urban farming, we are part of this penjana, all right, so that we will assist those who are potentially can duplicate the success story urban farming project, the existing one, not just in KL. So we have several success story nationwide. So we can work together with all these 151 local authorities. As I said, maybe Islamic University yang the first to start with, to get the ball rolling, and then I believe the rest will follow. So we try to maximize the knowledge of permaculture. This one we agree with Haji Razak. Okay, so without the basic of permaculture, you can get that culture. So that culture will determine the success story of your urban farming. So there's no one what do you call that, can say no about producing food. Okay, am I right? Okay, so let's start berkebun. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. No green hand, no not green, all green. All right.
No excuse anymore, yeah. Please, no excuse. Just the technique. Do it right. Learn from the expert.
Very busy urban farmer, Mr. Rashdan. Okay, inshallah, we will give you extra hands, okay, if you need. Okay, we are people who are already in InSAF, so that's why we embark into this project. So that's why we call ourselves InSAF. All right. Okay, my last question to Mr. Raza from Sydney Asia. Do you think halal and Toyyib lifestyle through urban farming can help us achieve sustainable development goals, especially SDG 1, no poverty, SDG 2, zero hunger, SDG 3, good health and well-being, and SDG 11, sustainable cities and community, and how we get there?
Thank you. That's again another very serious question. I'm going to share a couple of slides later, but just to pull back with Professor Dr. Hamzah tadi about communities that are probably going back into the things that they are normally doing before the COVID. I hope not. Personally, I hope really not, because the COVID was given to us for us to look at how we can look at things and do things better, and from that perspective, food, how do we eat, what do we eat, and how do we produce our own food that is that tantamounts to taking our own health. And I think I'm going to say it again, it all boils down to us. We have to look at it. And in terms of the community-based things, when we do things together, we get a lot of results that are commonly being shared. And this will actually equate to SDG 1, SDG 2, and so on and so forth. Even when you talk about the SDG pertaining to water, because it all encompasses in one. And the Halal Toyyib has explained that in detail. We are not to waste. And isn't that zero waste to begin with? And if it is, and if we can agree to it, even that statement of you don't waste water, even you're in the river. How do we take care of our waste when we eat and when we do things? What about producing like the permaculture way of recycling and reusing the waste, like Rajan cakap tadi, and it goes round the farm and it equates to more food for our animals. So these are literally ways and means that we can follow in order to create answers to what we need in terms of the SDG 1, zero hunger, and whatnot. I'm going to share now the couple of references I pull up for this, but question, which is there's another book. I like this book because it talks about how do we create regenerative approaches by design, and it is about consciously creating opportunities, and it has to go through its methodology of processes where it talk about evolvement of communities. It has to evolve. It cannot be from one party to the other. It cannot be from the authorities empowering to the communities. No, it is bottom up first. So the communities must talk about what they want. For example, if I can relate to USJ 6 community garden or kebun-kebun bangsa for that matter, they come up with what they think they want with the communities. They drive the things in terms of how they think they want to produce food. Okay, and of course they talk about town halls and etc. to get over the administrative requirements. But at the end of the day, looking back as it is today, they are producing food for communities, for themselves and for other communities. KKB, 100 over kilos per week goes to B40 groups. So isn't that something that we could all do and emulate? If they are doing the right things, what's wrong with other communities, regardless whether you belong to a certain community or not? But it comes from, I need to produce my own food for myself and for my own community. So extend that a little bit. Look at people from other communities, like our dear friends in Johor, Follow Farm. It started for their family, and today they've got 3-4 farms, and each farm contributes food every week to their communities, and it's inclined and aligned to healthy food and anti-cancer food. Okay, and those are the food that people like David Katz talks about in their book. How do we eat? What do we eat, and so on and so forth. It all boils down to that. And how do we suppress the things that are due to come to us in the form of sickness and pandemics of sort, and they've been talking about this years and years already, that it will come, and there are ways and means for us to address it prior to that. And it's all about what we eat. What you eat is what you get. Let me get back to my slide. Okay, not moving. Our dear friend Vandana Shiva talks about the Earth Democracy in her book. A really good book, and it does address the basic requirements of community and how we can take charge. And it boils down to you and me. Yes, the authorities are there, but again, I want to stress, it's between you and me. We need to look at how we can do it and move on from there. This extraction from Professor Dato' Zaini Ujang spoke. It outlines, and this book was launched like before the COVID, and in that kesimpulan hadis 10, it really states, concept of urban green or green communities is going to come. You like it or not, like Cik Rajan said, he's been doing all these years, and it will continue to explode. And it's up to you and me, people like you and me, to to see whether it's something that you want to jump on the bandwagon and create the difference for the whole mankind. Because if you don't, we're gonna miss it. So the things that we feel that we need to do and have to do to address the 17 goals of SDGs, and we can only do it individually and in totality, which means you and I, we must start that. We must address our need to go into some form of transformation in terms of ourselves and society. Then we can move on and to develop our own strategies, how these things can be addressed in our own communities, in our own context, as in the nation, and probably, hopefully, inshallah, the whole world, because you like it or not, it's going to go on. So we need to really look at Halal, Toyyib, how that can actually assist us as a guide, kind of principles that guide us to do the things rightfully, wholesomely, and with the right context for you and me, really. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Razak. Very deep explanations. Okay. I have no more questions, but our audience have posed a few questions. Okay. Question number 1. Okay. Halal and Toyyib cannot happen in a vacuum. Lack of strong policy guiding agriculture industry to ensure a food environment with high standard of food safety and nutrition. Any of you want to respond to these questions? This is related to policy guiding. Maybe Prof. Hamzah, please.
In the halal certification in Malaysia now, it is stated that the Toyyib aspect is considered. However, I think it is not comprehensive enough. The Toyyib part that they stress in the halal audit before the halal certificate is issued, I think this is happening not only in Malaysia but in some other halal certification bodies in the world, is that they look at cleanliness and hygiene, which is good, which is part of Toyyib. However, the comprehensiveness of the Toyyib, as we discussed today, is not in the scheme. For example, sugars that are used as additive. Okay, you can say, for example, I cannot name brand, but you can take any soft drinks. They have the halal certificate, and if you ask any person with a little bit of scientific background and look at the level of sugar added, so it doesn't comply to that Toyyib part. But of course, the soft drink is halal certified. Okay, so that kind of policy, as I said, it is not comprehensive enough at this point of time. Okay, it takes care of certain part of Toyyib, but not the comprehensive. For example, the sustainability. How do they treat their waste? How do they minimize waste in their production? These are not audited. Okay. So I think it requires efforts from people who are aware of this. For example, those who are attending this webinar, to spread the word that we need a comprehensive new halal and Toyyib policy, so that the auditors can use that as a good guide, so that when they audit, they use that as their new policy or scheme to audit and give the halal certificate, which will really reflect halal and Toyyib. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Bro Hamza. I hope that answer question from Miss Salmako. Okay, we have another question. This is from Laut Selatan. Some halalan Toyyib personal care products give harmful impact to our environment. How do we tackle this? Maybe Mr. Razak want to answer? It's related to environment.
Thank you. That's a very not specific question, but I guess the bottom line is, if benda tu tak elok, better don't do. Yeah? And if that thing does affect others, the community, people, climate, environment, animals, we don't consume. Easy as that. Because it's a thin line drawn. Professor Hamza outlined the issue of carbonated drinks and whatnot. 40 spoons in a cup. How do qualify that as halal? I do not. And these are the things that we need to take charge of. If it's no, it means no. If you need the sugar, by all means, take it. For running or whatever. But if it's something that do harm something else, someone else, we make that decision. No is a no. So I can only answer with that, without going into specifics. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Razak. Another question from Adila Zulkifli. Okay, I would like to ask to Prof. Hamza and Mr. Rashdan, how urban farming can connecting with halal and Toyyib lifestyle? I think this question is already answered during our discussion, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we move to the next one. Okay, it says that some kind of farming is not good, like spray chemical to vegetable or fruits. Is there any way to change this? People in urban farming, maybe can expert in urban farming. Okay, Rashdan, you can answer this.
Okay. I think I can say that's mine. Okay, I'll take up from that. Yes, I think I did earlier. I did mention it's a process whereby that we need the kids, the grassroots. Okay, for those who are outside there, they need to start the project. They must include the children to be part of it. You see, because we want that the project to be sustained. We want that the kids to know that their responsibility not just for themselves but for the environment. Okay, that's why when we start this compost project, before we do any planting and so on, is very important. Okay, start to know the fundamental of doing a farming. Okay, what I can share here is very basic. Once you have the topsoil, your fertilizer, you need to water it. Am I right? But in Malaysia, most of people these are to watering our plants, which is wrong. So what needs to be done actually is to start promoting rainwater harvesting. Okay, because this rainwater harvesting, the water is the fundamental of doing a farming project or any project. I can say it's a water actually. Am I right? Then we need to have a good soil. Okay, so we need to make sure that no one will complain saying that green fingers, yellow, red, all sort of colors fingers suddenly appear. And then actually the main thing is actually they don't know the technique. That's why learn from the expert. We have numbers. I can say we have a group of natural farming practitioners, 100 plus of them. Imagine that. So you need to learn. Here today we have Adi Razak, Sits Malaysia. You guys can log on to his page, the Facebook page, Sits Malaysia. Then can start paying a visit. You go there and then see how Sits Malaysia transform their homestead into a food forest. So as I said, before you start doing a project, you need to learn the basic first. So learn how other people have succeed the project. Okay, so you need to make sure that who get the people surrounding you to be involved. For us, it's just going to be you alone to do your farming project. Okay. All right.
Right.
I think if I answer that question.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Encik Rashdan.
Can I tambah?
Yes, please. Encik Razak.
Okay. If I may add two things there. One is yes, look for people like us and whatnot, but we are farmers in our own respective areas. I mean, I'm a goat farmer for 16 years, and permaculture for 14, 15 years already. But there are other people in your own community and in own context that has a lot of info. You need to get attached to these communities, because they have a lot of answers. Kalau kat Gombak tu, don't go far. Go to InSAF and look at the university grounds. So there are many things that you can pick up one or two. Just do it, because farming is really a basic life skill. It is really a basic thing that you need to pick up. If you say you are not interested in such thing, then I do not have any answers for you. But can I just share one screen to show you some of the people that we have, so that you are able to connect at least in your own community. In respective areas and whatnot. Hopefully you can see the screen. Are you able to see the screen? Okay, good. Okay, great excellent. And this is not exhaustive, as in there are many other people. Look at the line on top. You talk about Rashdan and his Alam Lestari, Children of the Soil, that does in Puchong. That talks to people who are now categorized as in need, special kids and whatnot. The Lost Food takes tons and tons of food and resend them to people of need. Ecocentric, Best Coast, really, all these are NGOs that helps one another in getting things done. Kin Starfish Foundation runs a project that does helping communities in need for the betterment of their lives, and they've done it for 6 years already. Charlene Food Forest, really good stuff in Negeri Sembilan, and so on and so forth. I need to address, look at it, Shoots and Roots in Kuala Lumpur. Nothing but pure planting of real food for communities, regardless whether you're in different settings or not, but they can help you to produce food. Follow Farm, I've talked about that. Now, Mr. Lee from Sarawak, really good guy that shares good information with good food in his own farm. Frenchie Penny, our friends up in Gombak and Langkawi, and today he runs classes for hotels to produce their own food. Why? Because 95% of their produce comes from outside, so they need to readdress that, and trigger probable solutions to provoke that line of chain, as in the production chain, distribution chain. What if they can produce their own food in Langkawi by themselves? Sri Lovely Farm talk about SRI. Kebun Kota, okay, this is worth mentioning. Kebun Kota, they sent me a text saying that, we managed to produce 18 tons of food and fruit in 3 months during the COVID. I'm not kidding, 18 tons. So we're going to visit them next week with the authorities, because the authorities got excited. They said, "Betul ke Razak, they are producing this amount?" I said, don't believe me. Come, let's go and have a look. So these are communities that are already producing. Urban Hijau, Kebun Bangsa I mentioned, even Daitai are now producing their own vegetables for their own community, as in the staff, and also I believe for going towards the hotel guests. Min House in Kelantan, TTDI, Rashdan mentioned, and many more. These are people who you need to get in touch with, regardless whether you're in Penang, Perlis, Johor, Sabah, Sarawak, because these are the people who are already doing things, and we welcome you. We need to talk to you. We need to create more reasons behind producing our own food, because at the end of the day, it's not the green fingers that we need to have. It's really about just living soil, which means compost. It's nothing to do with my fingers. It's nothing to do with your fingers. It's actually the soil and the sun and the water that we need to produce. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rashdan, Mr. Razak, Prof. Hamza. I think we need to leave, okay? And for those who did not get full idea of our discussion today, please visit us at InSAF Living Laboratory YouTube InSAF Living Laboratory, and at our FB, the InSAF, so you can listen again, digest, and if you have problem or issue, you can contact us. We can contact SIDS Malaysia. You can contact Lestari Alam. We are here to help, and please disseminate this information. The strong statement, halal and Toyyib lifestyle is for all humankind. It's not only for Muslim. I think that's all from us for today. Inshallah, we will see you again in other webinar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon.
Waalaikumsalam
you.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Boleh dengar? Dan, boleh dengar? Presiden?
Yes.
Boleh dengar? Okay.
Can.
Okay.
Boleh.
Thank you. So, dia orang dah keluar dah?
I think they're still there. I mean, Nur, I pun tak nampak berapa orang dalam